You're listening to 2025 The Final Drive, What You Need to Win with David Hayes.
Today, I want to talk to you about how to mitigate or at least eliminate maybe some angst when it comes to paying taxes when you're selling something. I know we talked about real estate a few episodes ago, and I'll get to that as well. But I want to talk about installment sales. When does it make sense? How do you structure these things? So I'm going to discuss two areas: one, selling a business, and two, selling real estate. How to best minimize the tax bite, right? You have a business worth $10 million and you sell it. What then happens, right? What tax do you owe? Well, first of all, what are you buying? What's good for the buyer might not be good for the seller. As an example, I'm part of a group that just bought a property with a building and a business. If I'm a seller, I might want to allocate more to the ground because I've never depreciated it. And therefore, I will not have to recapture any of that for tax purposes. Because when you sell something, there's a couple of components. One, the capital gains. What did I pay for it? What did I put into it? What did I sell it for? That would be your capital gain. What did I depreciate over time that when I sell it, I must recapture it? That's recapture. So you have two different types of tax: recapture and capital gains. So if I allocate part of the sale to something I've already depreciated, then I'm going to have to recapture and pay the tax, like equipment, the building. Take goodwill for an example. This business has a lot of goodwill. People love it. That's pretty much all taxable to the seller as ordinary income at that point, potentially capital gains, depending on how the agreement's structured. But it's not real favorable for the buyer on the depreciation side. So as an example, and when we buy this business, we're like, okay, how much do we want to allocate to the dirt? As little as possible for us, because we can't depreciate that. For the seller, as much as possible, but everyone has to be on the same page. There's a special form you fill out when you buy a business that's on property and you have building, you have equipment and things like that. What about all the stuff we're basically tearing out and throwing away that we bought? Well, that's going to have some kind of a depreciable instant value to us as the buyers. That's salvage value. What's the salvage value of that, whatever, grease trap or the stove hood or whatever it might be? Because what we bought was a restaurant. Then we think about, okay, we're going to remodel this place. So the ceiling fans, the new hood we put in the kitchen, fixtures, furniture, all that stuff could be depreciated as bonus depreciation year one. And that could flush straight through to my other income and offset that. So there's just a lot of different moving parts when you buy a piece of property with a building, with a business. So one of the things that I've suggested to people over time is, what about selling it on contract? What are you looking for? Are you just looking to get out of something? Are you looking for a big bunch of cash? Or are you looking for something to replace an income stream? Well, that's where a potential installment sale could make sense. So let's say in a piece of real estate, and a business could work the same way. The problem is, anytime you sell something on contract or an installment basis, you're still sort of an interested party, right? Because you need that business to succeed for them to pay you. You don't want that real estate to get all ripped up and tore up, and then you have to take it back. So I always tell people, when you sell something on contract or an installment sale, you should probably know the person you're selling it to. Let's use the real estate example. We discussed the tax deferred exchanges in a previous podcast. But in the case that I bought a piece of real estate from a friend, let me share this with you. He was a family friend, longtime family friend. His goals: not to pay a bunch in tax and provide cash flow for his family. My goal: put down as little as possible, get favorable terms on my loan, and have a cash flow for me too. So we sat down and worked this out. He knew I could go borrow the money. I owned other student rentals in our area, so I was his guy. He actually told me, and I was honored by this, a very prominent guy in the community said, "You're the only person I would have done this with." And I had told my wife that. I go, "That makes me feel so good and humble." So we worked out a contract to buy approximately $2 million worth of property, 3 separate properties. No money down. That was his choice. 5% interest when I was borrowing at the bank, around 4. Interest only for 2 years, which he paid income tax on that interest. And then we amortized it over 15. I'm not exactly sure what his cost basis was. And remember, again, it's what you paid and what you sold it for and the depreciation that matters.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. The clock is ticking. Each decision that is made today will put more money into your pocket or leave you worried about your financial future. The time to prepare is now. The time to eliminate risk was yesterday. Let's partner to help those around us to make decisions that empower their financial future. If you would like to book David for a speaking event, please contact CFC at cfci.us. You can purchase his book, 2025 The Final Drive, by going to www.cfci.us and clicking on 2025 The Final Drive.